Whether we like it or not, the police are crucial to maintaining the safety of our neighbourhoods. At least that is the theory. Yes, there are a lot of officers out there that do fantastic work, but every once in a while they may do some really idiotic things that can even lead to their arrest. From chasing pigs and placing donkeys in their cars to somehow being caught in incredibly awkward positions. So, hop on in because we're going downtown to look at some of the worst instances of the cops doing the silliest things. Piggy in the middle. Police in Pensacola, Florida discovered a pot-bellied pig prancing around the city. They worried that this baby pig might be struck by an automobile because he was in a huge metropolis. 5 police officers and 2 animal control officers embarrassed themselves as they slipped and skidded around the streets in an attempt to save this oinker's bacon when the backup was summoned. Although it may come as a surprise, pot-bellied pigs can really attain speeds of up to 60 miles per hour, especially when they're fleeing the authorities. The 5-0 were no match for the pig's small trotters, but after an hour of mayhem, one cop was able to take him to the ground, signalling the end of the pig's jig. After that, the pig was arrested and given a mugshot. Okay, so maybe the mugshot part never happened, but a police department representative described how the wayward pig was housed in a secure location while officers searched for its owner. J-trotting. The police must have extensive training to cope with major crimes such as murder and armed robbery. One call, however, for which no police officer is ever prepared occurred in 2015. A local woman named Robin Strader called Oklahoma PD to report that a donkey was on the loose and aimlessly roaming down a country road, or J-trotting as others could say. When Officer Kyle Kanan arrived on the scene, Robin explained that she would have been happy to have the donkey crash at her house, but there was no way for her to transport him there. At this point, Officer Kanan had quite possibly the worst idea when he suggested that they force the donkey into the back of his police car. It was a bit of a squeeze and a squish, as you might expect, given that police cars aren't often designed to accommodate farm animals. As a result, they gave the donkey the nickname Squishy. Squishy also appeared to be at ease, as shown by the several donkey duckies he left all over Officer Kanan's back seat. You're in trouble. Police officers have been dismissed for some fairly humorous reasons, as you've seen and will see in these videos, albeit none nearly as disgusting as this next one. Carl Brown, an Orange County deputy sheriff, was reportedly busting to go potty while using the elevator at work, according to a tale published on lolwhat.com. The officer, however, made the decision to relieve himself there and then rather than waiting till he could go to a bathroom. Deputy Brown was questioned after the smell of pee was probably detected and the surveillance film was reviewed. When asked about this, he claimed to have a medical problem that made it impossible for him to contain his pee for long periods of time. In fact, he acknowledged using the elevator to go pee 5 times in all. Brown's supervisor, as you could guess, had to have a very interesting conversation with him and finally fired him from his position. Officer-only fans. According to statistics, 25% of males will experience hair loss before the age of 30. A lot of guys struggle with this issue, leading to over 730,000 surgical hair treatments globally in 2019. However, this may be rather expensive, bringing us to the following tale. Harry Edwards, a 25-year-old UK police officer, was in severe need of a hair transplant due to his shriveled and wilted hairline. In his opinion, there was only one way to pay for his new look because his salary was clearly not enough. OnlyFans. The cop would sell pornographic images of himself under the moniker Brett Hunter, with the money from the sales going into his piggy bank for hair transplants. The stud made a total of $62 by charging $3 a month membership until a buddy supposedly stumbled across the material and made his superiors aware of it. Harry was charged with gross misconduct for having a secret OnlyFans account, but he resigned in September 2021 before the PD could act. He says he is ashamed of the entire situation and has damaged his profession and his personal connections. Pokémon Patrol. It's challenging to apprehend crooks, but do you know what's more difficult? Pokémon Go, catching rare Pokémon. When 2 of the LAPD's officers were involved in a Pokémon-related chase in 2017, the LAPD management didn't appear to understand this at all. Officers Louis Lozano and Eric Mitchell were patrolling in their police cruiser on a typical day. They started playing the augmented reality smartphone game Pokémon Go because they were so bored. But as their game got more intense, they received a call for support since a heist had just started at a neighboring Macy's. The 2 were then presented with a moral choice. Go seek out the super rare Pokémon Snorlax, which had recently arrived nearby, or take the reasonable course and go offer backup. In their chase of the prized Pokémon, the police continued to spend the next 20 minutes entirely disregarding backup calls. Although they were focused on their goal, the in-car camera's all-seeing eyes and ears managed to catch them in the act. As a result of their Pokémon antics, they would be fired since they preferred playing mobile games to rescuing lives. The Great Escape. Neil Moore is here. Most likely you're asking how he got here. Well, he conned roughly $2.5 million out of several organizations. He won't be here for very long, so don't worry. He has a clever strategy. Start the bust out of jail operation. First, he pretends to be the court in a letter to the jail guards requesting that they release him on bond. Then those naive jail guards fell for it and freed him into the wild without realizing they were totally tricked. Impossible, you may be thinking, but I can guarantee you that this truly occurred in 2015 in Wandsworth Prison in London. It's hardly surprising that Neil Moore, a seasoned scammer, was able to escape jail thanks to a cunning letter and some unwise prison guards. The Guardian reported that Neil had created a fake email address and website that claimed to be for the UK Prison Service. Additionally, he was able to modify official bail paperwork for his needs after obtaining them. Even though Neil had outsmarted the authorities, his efforts were in vain since just 4 days later, he startlingly reversed course and turned himself in. He claimed to have changed his mind after likely realizing the hard realities of being on the run. When he was relocated to a very high security wing of London's Belmarsh prison in order to, not accidentally release him again, things weren't quite as comfortable for him when he got back in. Cop Copycat. Antoine Tucson, 37, played the role of a fake police officer up until 2022, patrolling Prince George's County with a vest, a revolver, a taser, a false badge and even a dog, which, spoiler warning, was actually his friend's emotional support animal. Why Tucson continued to do this is a mystery. His activities are all the more mysterious because there are no accusations that he ever really issued fines or made arrests. He merely seemed to enjoy walking around in uniform. In any case, his deception was discovered when 2 women complained about their bill at a restaurant where he was actually employed as a security guard. Antoine changed tactics as the argument heated up and pretended to work for the US Marshal Service. However, when the real police showed up there, they had their doubts about Antoine, particularly since he'd left his dog alone at the restaurant, something it seems that dog handlers can never do. Not believing Antoine's ruse, they looked into it more and discovered a 15-year fraud that, if proven, could put him in jail for 13 years. Parking wars. The cops don't always obey the regulations, as we all know by now. They are certainly guilty when it comes to parking. In reality, the Lincolnshire police have faced criticism in the UK after being repeatedly caught parking in prohibited areas, especially handicapped parking bays. One local woman described how she had seen them park in a disabled place despite having plenty of open spaces for regular vehicles. This prompted her to accuse the cops of being lazy and of robbing more worthy individuals of parking places. It's unknown if the cops were on duty in this specific instance, but the department asserts that if they were, the increased space in the handicapped area would make it simpler for them to conduct an arrest without endangering other vehicles. Therefore, it appears like the jury is still out on this case, but I wouldn't have high hopes for the police. Cops have been spotted in comically awkward parking scenarios all around the world, including this one who neglected to remember that big motorbikes don't often park up too smoothly on soft grassy terrain. And there's his police friend taking a picture for good measure, further proving their professionalism. Giving the cops lots of room is definitely better for you and your vehicle with that sort of parking. You didn't see me favourably. A well-crafted drawing of the suspect might be the difference between success and failure while apprehending criminals. The premise is that these portraits are becoming ever more lifelike as a result of new digital technology. The Warwickshire Police Department in the UK was looking for a guy who had taken part in a robbery in 2018. In order to rob a woman, he and a few other guys had entered her home under false pretenses. The victim described one of the males after calling the police, which revealed what was probably not his finest side. However, the cops really released this picture, and my, how the internet laughed in unison. But it makes one wonder exactly how sophisticated the police's technology for identifying suspects is. However, it wasn't the first hilarious police drawing to surface. Simply have a look at this one from 2018. For the record though, this one was successful in assisting the capture of the suspect, a 44-year-old robber named Hing Phuoc Nguyen. To be honest, I can't lie, the similarity is really eerie. My weapon is where? The cops need to be the ones to understand this more than anybody else because with tremendous authority comes great responsibility. Despite what it may appear at times, they occasionally let their guard down. Just take a look at this image of a South African police officer who looks to be sitting and casually texting as her Vector R4 weapon is casually resting beside her and out of sight. And she's not the only one. The pistol of the next officer, however, was so concealed that it was practically being used as a human kickstand. Shotgun butt stance is the dumbest position there is, but while we're on the subject, check out this Indian officer who was caught giving the same part of his body a good old scratch with a stick. Clumsy cops. Imagine that you're a police officer and you're pursuing a criminal. You've been preparing for this moment your entire career. As the thief weaves and ducks through the streets, you ultimately force him into a dead end. You're thinking to yourself, you're mine, but he leaps over the fence. You go on, but as you jump the fence, your pants snag, leaving you hanging. Yes, a British police officer can be seen wriggling for escape while being stuck on a fence in a photo provided by the Sun newspapers in 2020. He evidently tried to grab for his radio to ask for help after being trapped, but dropped it, putting himself in a difficult situation. Although the conclusion of this police officer's narrative is still unknown, the article split readers. Some expressed compassion for the man, while others believed it was all a setup. The latter notion may not be as absurd as it first appears. In fact, a similar incident seemed to occur to another police officer in the UK in 2021, but this time the officer discovered himself with his less-than-whitey-tighties exposed. The police called out for rescue as he was shown by everyone strung up by the feet with skids. However, his pleadings were unanswered as other residents began laughing and making recordings. Naturally, the images and videos circulated online, not exactly giving the British police force a good reputation. However, there is a plausible reason that might also explain the first stock officer we witnessed, so let's not judge those British bobbies just yet. Yes, I'm sorry to inform you that the later occurrence was nothing more than an elaborate practical joke by a man by the name of Lee Marshall. He frequently dresses up as a police officer and plays amazing practical jokes on the populace, putting the cops in the most uncomfortable scenarios. We would all undoubtedly like for this to be true, but I'm afraid it's not. Prison break. Contrary to popular belief, trafficking illicit drugs is regarded as such a serious offence in Thailand that it is subject to the death penalty. Anand Kamalwanich, a 23-year-old Thai man, was aware that his neck was on the line when he was accused of it in 2018. So it was fortunate that this prison inmate had thought of a clever scheme. It was actually rather easy. Anand simply signalled an officer over and said he had spotted a snake in his cell. After that, the officer went into the cell to look for the snake but made the fatal mistake of leaving the door slightly ajar. Anand burst through the door like a speeding bullet, locked the stupid cop on the other side. Everything had gone according to plan. Anand was now a wanted man on the lam, but only 5 short hours later, a citizen gave the police a tip about his whereabouts, and Anand was back in custody. In addition, he faced further charges for that amusing little trick of putting an officer in a detention cell and fleeing, as if being accused of drug trafficking wasn't enough. It appears that the officers are not entirely innocent, but which one most surprised you? Please let me know in the comment section below. Many thanks for viewing.